Hello, yes, and welcome to the Irish Abroad Show, episode 4, our fourth week after, and by far and away our busiest week as the return of the EFL last weekend. Of course, the Premier League coming up this weekend probably means even next week's show will probably be even busier. So much to get through. Paul Tierney once again here alongside myself, Ger Browne. Paul, it was a fascinating weekend of football, just so much to get through, not just even from the EFL, but as we're going to touch on as well, so much more happening elsewhere in the world of football involving Irish players.
Yeah, definitely. Great to be back as well with all the leagues starting to come back now. And obviously this week we have even more coming back as well with the Premier League and the other leagues around Europe as well. A lot of Irish involvement again in a lot of them. So look, more work for us, but sure, that's why we love it.
Yeah, keeps our research very much flying. All right. Yeah, as I mentioned, so much to get through. We'll obviously start as always with our weekly roundup. And like I mentioned, so much to do with the Championship, League One, League Two being back. Obviously the EFL Cup as well during the week. Obviously we'll touch on what Irish players did in the other leagues as well. And then in part 2 of the show, we have Ireland Under-21 International Zack ElBouzedi going on the show to talk us all about how things are getting on in life in Sweden with AIK and I suppose his football background in general. So far, a big win for them at the weekend. They won that top of the table clash against Djurgården. We'll talk to him about that and much more. But we might as well just dive straight into it, Paul, and get on with the championship. And it was a positive start for Irish contingent with the first game on Friday night between Bournemouth and West Brom, a 2-2 draw in front of the Sky Sports cameras. Both of West Brom's goals came from the Irish contingent. Daryl O'Shea getting the first that put them back on level terms, and Callum Robinson then getting the last goal, the last day of the game, to tie it up at 2-2. Both players came in for some good praise in the wake of this match. Daryl O'Shea got an 8 out of 10 rating from the Birmingham Mail. Callum Robinson got a 7 out of 10 rating from the Birmingham Mail. O'Shea was actually the Birmingham Mail's man of the match. He went on to make the championship team of the week. And some decent viewings as well for the Irish contingent involved with Bournemouth. Gavin Kilkenny got a 7 out of 10 rating from Dorset Live. Did say he was a little bit quieter than maybe in previous games, but still gave a good account of himself. And Travers getting a 6 out of 10 rating from the same publication. So it was good to see some heavy Irish involvement from that game.
Yeah, definitely, particularly with it being the opener for the English season as well. Fantastic for the lads. We all know Callum Robinson has a lot of ability as well. Maybe sometimes he just doesn't show up, but you see with his performances against Chelsea in particular last year, who are the European champions, that's it's huge for him to get a goal, and he's definitely well capable at that level and has proved he's capable at Premier League level as well. In terms of Daryl O'Shea, he's always highly praised by whatever manager is in with him, and right from the go this week, he's in the championship team of the week, and long may it continue. In terms of the Bournemouth lads, sorry, Jer. In terms of the Bournemouth lads,
far away.
Yeah, in terms of the Bournemouth lads, anyway, Gavin Kilkenny is getting a lot of game time, which is fantastic. Maybe he didn't get it as much last year as we thought he might have, and Mark Travers as well back in, which is good to see. Always thought he was a bit undone when he did come into the Bournemouth team that time, and then got dropped for Ramsdale, who is quite a similar goalkeeper, a good shot stopper as well. But look, I always thought Travers was a bit better, and it's good to see them playing as well.
Yeah, it certainly is. And there's definitely, I agree with you very much on the Callum Robinson kind of point of view. I think this is his level. He's proven it before the past with Preston. He was always high up in the goal scoring end for them. That season he went on loan to West Brom 2 seasons ago at this stage. Hit the ground running there. I think this is probably more of his level. He's more kind of suited for it. I expect him to do kind of quite well in a West Brom team that I still expect to be very much up there challenging for promotion. We look at some of the other Irish contingents over the weekend. There was also 2 Irish players involved for Cardiff City in their 1-1 draw with Barnsley on Saturday at home. Both of them actually making their debut. James Collins played 85 minutes and Mark McGuinness played the whole 90. McGuinness came in for a good rating here, a 7 out of 10 rating from the Wales Online, saying that he showed little there was a little sign of things to come. Looked comfortable in his first game at this level. Really good with his feet and a frame, comfortable with dealing with the physicality of the Barnsley forwards. As I mentioned, it was his first game actually playing at championship level, and they were even more impressed with Collins. He got an 8 out of 10 rating, saying very impressive debut. The sort of player City fans would love. Chased lost causes, harassed defenders, and made opportunities from nothing. Created as well as tested the keeper. I suppose that pretty much in that piece there that they have to rate James Collins' form, that really just sums him up in a nutshell. He gives you everything. He'll chase lost causes. He'll work his socks off. and he is a danger and a threat to the opposition because he does take watching.
Yeah, definitely a good goal scorer at that level as well, which he's proved for Luton in the last couple of seasons. Consistently annoying to defenders. That's what we want. Has done well for Ireland when he has come in as well. I have to say, did get a goal against Serbia from Shane Long hassling, but he put it away as well. So look, it's good, and he's at a club who could be in and around the playoffs this season. We don't know. Got a couple of other Irish players there as well. You mentioned Mark McGuinness on loan from Arsenal. So look, long may it continue. And Mick McCarthy there as well. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, Mick done a very good job when he came in there last season, because obviously, you could be forgiven, think was Mick's managerial days over after the disaster going out to Cyprus, but Cardiff were in a really bad place. He got that initial kind of honeymoon period. It looked like for a while they were going to make the playoffs. It did drip off towards the end of the season, but so look, that's not a bad result, because Barnsley, had a fantastic season last year making the playoffs, and its early days as well. We'll move on down as well. Another Irish player who had a good start to the season was Daryl Lindenham with Blackburn. He captained them to a 2-1 victory over Swansea on Saturday, and he also got a good rating, 7 out of 10 from Lancs Live. And just a couple of quotes they gave on him: calm and collective from the captain, pushed his defensive counterparts to play in the front foot, left exposed on several occasions, but stood up his end of the bargain well. So that's kind of good to see. Also a decent debut as well, or not a debut, but a decent start to the season for Dan Mcnamara. He played the full 70 minutes, full 90 minutes even, for Millwall in their 1-1 draw away against QPR. He got a 7-point rating, 7.1 rating from News that then. Obviously, Millwall versus QPR. Should also throw in there the Mark Bertram derby. He's getting a good profile for himself. Disappointing day for the Irish contingent at Preston. Adam Brown was the captain, and Greg Cunningham also started, but he was taken off at half-time for tactical reasons, not for an injury, in their heavy 4-1 defeat against New Boys Hull. Both players actually only received a 4 out of 10 rating from Lancs Live. Louis Watson, he played 52 minutes and picked up a yellow card in Derby County's 1-1 draw with Huddersfield. He got a 5 out of 10 rating from the Derby Telegraph, saying that he started off brightly in the game, but he did fade, and that's probably what led to his early departure in the second half. But it is worth noting, it was only his second senior start, so he's a long career ahead of him. Disappointing news for Stephen Kenny to come from the Bristol City Blackpool game, because Callum Dowda had to go off injured after just 13 minutes of that one. So frustrating for Dowda, who had an injury disrupted season last year. Manager Nigel Pearson saying it was a shin injury, and they were going to assess that more in the coming days. That's obviously Saturday, so they probably know the extent at this stage. Richard Keogh, he played the full 90 minutes in his Blackpool debut, and he got a 7 out of 10 rating that one. It is also worth noting that game finished 1-1. And a bad start to the season for the Sheffield United contingent, or the Irish contingent even, at Sheffield United. They suffered a 1-0 defeat at home to Birmingham on Saturday. John Egan, captain Dave McGoldrick, they played the entire game, and both players got a 6 out of 10 rating. But there was an Irish player on the winning side in that game. Scott Hogan played 67 minutes for Birmingham in that match, and he got a 6.5 rating from the Birmingham Mail. Of course, Hogan actually up against his old club there. So that wraps up everything from the championship. Just from all them other little bits have gone through, Paul, what mainly kind of stands out from you?
Well, the injury to Callum O'Dowda is a big one as well. It's he's always involved in the squad. He's a player that all the managers see that should be involved, and he can come in and do a job in a lot of positions, particularly with Jason Knight and a couple of other players out already. That might be a bit of a worry for Stephen Kenny coming into the September qualifiers. But you mentioned as well, David McGoldrick obviously off to a losing start. Sheffield United, they probably don't really want to go down a similar route as last year, where they didn't win a game for a very long time. And it's not great to start with a 1-0 defeat against a team you're probably tipped very heavily to beat. So, look, good stuff for Scott Hogan, though, as well. But, you went through a lot of them there. Disappointing for Preston. Probably a bit of a shock. They were 1-0 up in that game as well. Yeah. So I'm sure the Irish lads will be disappointed with that one.
Yeah, and Hull were not meant to have the best of preparation for pre-season, considering they just came up from League One. That was a bit of an upset, but I think you could kind of see with Preston last year, like, the last couple of years they've been knocking on the door of the playoffs. Like last year, they had to get rid of Alex, or what was the manager again? Sorry, the name has just gone for me.
Oh, Alex Neil, is it your man?
Alex Neil, yes.
Yeah.
Because they're in danger of being relegated. So they have kind of dripped off, and it could be another struggling season for them. And the Sheffield United one, I don't know, I think, they weren't as bad as that Derby County team from the 07-08 season, but they went down a similar route and they lost a lot of games that season. And Derby the following season, the championship started very, very slow and never kind of recovered. And it's just that when you're in that kind of habit and routine, it's hard to get out of. And you just kind of fear and wonder, would the same kind of quite happen with Sheffield United? Like, I expect the likes of Fulham to be okay this season, the likes of West Brom, expect strong challenges like Bournemouth against Swansea, Cardiff. I'm just not sure where Sheffield United will finish this season, but like obviously you'd hope that they will be up there because of the Irish kind of contingent. We'll move on, and do you want to give us a lowdown on what happened with Irish contingent in League One and League Two over the weekend?
Yeah, well, I've only got a brief bit from League One, and I actually didn't pick up anything from League Two.
But I have a bit in League Two, so I can do League Two if you want to go through League One first.
Yeah, League One anyway. So we'll start with which was probably the game of the weekend in the three divisions. Bolton 3, MK Dons 3. Owen Doyle and Troy Parrott both played in that, and Warren O'Hara as well. Probably a bit disappointing for him to concede 3 goals since he's playing at the back. But look, disappointing for a 90th minute winner, 90th minute equaliser as well from Bolton. But good to see Troy getting game time right from the goal as well. Fantastic to see. And Owen Doyle is always very, very clinical at these kind of levels as well. We know that already, so good to see. The main man, Wes Houlihan, played the full 90 in a 1-1 draw with Oxford United. Look, the man doesn't age. Age. He's fantastic. And Mark Sykes also played 85 minutes for Oxford in that game. Ronan Curtis was heavily praised by his manager after Portsmouth's 1-0 win over Fleetwood. Marcus Harness played for Portsmouth as well, and Gavin Bazunu was on the bench, but we knew that because he's nursing an injury, so he's hoping to be getting into the Portsmouth goal in the next few weeks when he does become fully fit. And a name I haven't seen in a long time, Anthony Pilkington, came on for Fleetwood as well, which is Anthony Pilkington. He played for Ireland, didn't he?
He did. He's a couple of caps to his name, all right, yeah. It would have been around the time he was in the Premier League with Norwich City, about, I suppose, 10 years ago now at this stage.
Yeah, it's a name I haven't heard in a long time, but I seen it and I was like, God, that's a throwback, and that's a throwback to the Trapattoni.
This is the great thing about some of the names that can pop up in League One and League Two.
Exactly. I can't pronounce his first name, but Ogbene played the full 90 for Rotherham, and Kieran Sadlier was on the bench, and Josh Coyote was also an unused sub. Rotherham have a decent Irish contingent, always seem to have as well. The likes of Richie Towell has played there in the past too.
Trevor
Clark as well, obviously, yeah. Aidan McGeady did score a penalty for Sunderland in a 2-1 win over Wigan, and Aidan O'Brien was on as a sub also. We'll talk more about him later in the show as well. And Daryl Horgan got an assist in Wickham's 2-1 win over Accrington. Gareth McCleary grabbed both goals there. He set up the second one. So
another name that brings up memories as well. I remember him in the Premier League with Reading as well a few years ago, actually. Yeah.
God, Reading. I'm sick of Reading. Anyway, yeah, fantastic. Good roundup in League One. League One's always full of Irish stars, so great to see.
Yeah, just one other thing as well from League One that I have here that you just didn't call out there. Ryan Delaney, of course, the former Cork City defender, he actually got an assist for Morecambe in their 2-2 draw away to Ipswich Town. And I'll just give a quick lowdown then on League Two. I'll just kind of give a rundown on what players kind of did anything in terms of goals or assists. So Conor Grant, the Ireland under-21 international, he scored for Rochdale in a 3-2 defeat at home to Harrogate. Gavin Houlihan, of course, another former League of Ireland player with the likes of Galway and Waterford, just to name a few. He got the only goal in Hartlepool's 1-0 victory against Crawley Town. Great to see, because Hartlepool, obviously, you all know Jess Stallions club, but they've had a couple of years. Their first game back up in the Football League, so it's fantastic to see them get to win there. And for the Kilkenny man, Gavin Houlihan, to get the goal there. And lastly, Stephen Mclaughlin, he got an assist. He even assisted Mansfield's opening goal in their 2-1 home victory over Bristol Rovers. So that's all I have to add on League Two. We'll actually finish up on England now, and of course the first round of the EFL Cup took place this week, and you can give us a lowdown on some of the Irish players that were involved in the action in that, Paul.
Yep, so we've on there's a couple of fixtures on tonight, today being Wednesday, so we don't have everyone, but we do have Tuesday night's games. Firstly, we'll start with Festi Ebosele, he was man of the match in Derby's 3-3 draw with Salford last night. The game was obviously live on Sky Sports as well. Derby did win the game on penalties. Fantastic news for the former Bray Wanderers man and the Wexford native. Fantastic stuff. And look, long may it continue. He'll have another opportunity in the next few weeks, hopefully, with Derby not being the strongest of squads. Obviously, we've heard that they are struggling to fulfill squad fulfillments, whatever way you want to look at it. So a lot of young players are getting an opportunity. So hopefully he gets another chance in the next few weeks, and even in the league as well. I mentioned Aidan O'Brien earlier. He scored last night in a 2-1 win over Port Vale for Sunderland in the League Cup. And finally, what I do have is Kieran Sadlier scored in a 2-1 defeat for Rotherham against Accrington. Probably a bit of a shock there, to be honest. But look, the League Cup always brings up a couple of surprises.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of them championship clubs as well, they might maybe go full strength. I've seen Blackburn, for instance, were beaten last night. Now, Daryl Lindenham actually started that game. But even this early stage of the season, like, you've got championship games at the weekend, you've got midweek next week, like, so they are heavy into it. So I suppose it is a good opportunity for a couple of the League One and League Two clubs to take scalps, and I suppose it becomes a little bit more interesting in the next round when you throw in all the Premier League teams that didn't make European action. So you're actually Arsenal will be in the next round, like, so it could you could get a bit of a interesting.
Looking forward to Arteta moaning about the fixture list because he didn't bother didn't put in enough effort to get into Europe last year.
So I don't think he can moan too much about fixture list when Arsenal aren't in Europe this year. So a lot of free midweeks for them. So it could be actually an opportunity for them to maybe go all out in the League Cup and give it a bash. And actually, you might win a trophy.
The way I look at it is, you should try win every competition you're in, particularly the cups when you're actually very good at winning cups. So why not?
It's all you can win, like, so.
Exactly.
Well, just move on. In Scotland, all I have down is just that in terms of involvement, Joe Shaughnessy, after scoring an own goal last week, he finally put one in the right end this week. He scored for St Mirren, but unfortunately they lost out 2-1 to Hearts. Do you have anything else maybe to add from Scotland there?
I just a lot of guys played 90 minutes. Jake Doyle-Hayes for Hibs. Johnny Hayes was a sub at half-time for Aberdeen. Jake Carroll full 90 against St Johnstone. Ryan Sweeney was full 90, and Killian Sheridan 60 minutes in that hard defeat for Dundee against Celtic. And I have one from League One in Scotland. Connor Salmon scored his first goal for Alloa Athletic against East Fife. So look, Connor Salmon, a name, another Trapattoni era name that we probably all remember criticising for starting a couple of times, is back in the goals. So look, that's all from Scotland.
Yeah, that brings back flashbacks from that crucial game against Austria in 2013 to qualify for the World Cup. But good to see he's still prolonging his football career anyway. Just obviously we mentioned as well, of course, with Sweden, it was a good weekend for Zack ElBouzedi. You know, his AIK side bet Jules Gardens are even 3-1 at the weekend at top of the table clash. He started that game. Obviously we'll chat more about that with a pre-recorded interview that we've done with Zack later on the show. And then just finally, I suppose we might just touch on Belgium and America. There's only one Irish player that played in the MLS over the last while, or since our last show, and that was Derek Williams. A 1-1 draw for LA Galaxy at home against the Vancouver Whitecaps. He played the whole game in that one. That result sees them remain third in the Western Conference, but they are only 2 points off Sporting Kansas City for the number one spot. So it's very, very tight in the MLS. Of course, another maybe 2 months or so left, maybe a bit more at this stage of their regular season. And finally, in Belgium, fresh from making his European debut for Anderlecht and their 3-0 victory over Laki of Albania last week, Josh Cullen then put another fine display in the weekend as Anderlecht got their first win of the new Belgium season against Serene, is what the pronunciation we're going with, is it?
Yeah, that's the one that Google said, so we'll go with that.
Just a couple of good stats I got from Josh's performance in that game from ROI News on Twitter. So he had a 96% pass succession, 89% accurate passes, 101 touches, 1 chance creation, 3 fouls won, 7 duels won, 3 tackles won, and he made 2 interceptions. I suppose one thing I was just kind of chatting casually about with a couple of mates of mine is we're not actually, strange enough, we'll probably talk about it next week, we're not actually guaranteed we're going to have any Irish regular starters in the Premier League this season. Like Matt Doherty, maybe a push. Don't see Coleman. Don't see Houlihan. Hendrick, maybe Clark, but we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 at most. So to see Josh Cullen putting in fine performances like that for Anderlecht obviously will be of some kind of encouragement for us going forward into September games.
Yeah, definitely. Particularly if they do get into the European tournament. Are they trying for the Europa League or the Conference League? Is it?
They're currently in the Conference League at the moment.
Conference League, okay, grand. Well, look, if he gets into Europe, I think he should definitely be spoken about. He's obviously very highly rated over there, particularly by his manager as well, which I've said a couple of times. And look, we've seen him play for Ireland in a couple of friendlies. He's well capable. Probably what we need. Might calm down some situations, just pass the ball. That's all we need to move. That's all we need to do really in the midfield and let the attacking players get going. So, look, I think he'd definitely be involved anyway. Whether he'll start or not, I'm not 100%, but he'll definitely be involved.
Yeah, I think for me, we're 3 weeks away from that Portugal game now. I think he's fairly well certain going to start. He's got the most football under his legs. He's already played 4 or 5 games already at this stage. I thought he'd done very well in the March games. I think he's going to be fairly well certain, especially with 3 games, I think he'll definitely at least play 2 of them, if not all 3. But that's it for the weekly roundup for this week. I mentioned it was a busy one and got through a lot. It's going to be even more next week when the Premier League is back, obviously, on Friday night. So much to get through there, and hopefully so much Irish involvement to get through. That's unfortunate. I think we're going to have to say goodbye to yourself on the show for today, Paul, because we've got coming up now in part 2 our interview with Zack ElBouzedi. But just unfortunately, with work schedules with yourself and with Zack's kind of schedule as well between training and all that, fortunately you aren't able to make the interview. So it's just me for this one. You're going to have to prolong with for the rest of the show. But I'm sure you'll get your own back, Paul, and you'll get an exclusive interview with someone over the course of the next couple of weeks.
No, it's no problem. Sure, it's just the way it lies. Sure, look, enjoy it anyway. It'll be a good interview. Yeah. I'm looking forward to watching it.
As one famous Irish pundit once used to say, that's showbiz, baby. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Paul. I'm sure we'll see you again next week. So, come up here now, and part 2 is our interview with AIK's new signing, Zack ElBouzedi. Yes, part 2 here now on the Irish Abroad show. And once again, it's our weekly show with an interview, and we're delighted to be joined by AIK new signing, and of course, Ireland underage, but at this stage, former underage international, Zack ElBouzedi. Zack, how is all with yourself, and how is life in Sweden treating you at the moment?
Yeah, everything's good. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's a new challenge, and so everything's brilliant so far.
Yeah, you're over there now a couple of weeks at this stage, and I suppose both an individual and collective point of view, it's gone off really, really well. You've made 4 appearances since you joined. You've started the last 3 matches. AIK are unbeaten in general in the 4 games you joined, and including that massive victory last Saturday where you bet Jules Garden 3-1, and it only leaves you 3 points now off top spot.
Yeah. I've actually been here a month today, so it's gone quick. But yeah, as I said, it really couldn't have gone any better. I think we won 3-1 since I've been here. We're 5 games unbeaten now. So and the derby game was massive. We never experienced anything like it. It's one of the biggest things I've ever seen. Just the rivalry. So important to get that win, and we won well as well, which was really important. And now obviously you said we're 3 points off the top, so just hopefully it keeps going and we'll see what happens.
I know it's only early days since you've been there. You're still probably just finding your feet. You've only played 4 games, so you've only played against a handful of teams. It can be hard to kind of judge everything. But early impressions, obviously, what the standards like. I suppose even from results kind of point of view, the league obviously would have got a lot of attention Tuesday night with that massively positive result with Malmo knocking out Rangers in the Champions League. Obviously, something you won't be looking at too much because Malmo are one of your title contenders at the moment, the title pushers.
Yeah, so far the standard's been really good, even in training. Like you've got people with now Seb Larson, and we've got Figure in the team, and then you've got other people that have played like good careers in La Liga, Serie A. So the standard now training is class, and then obviously the teams we played have been really impressed with the standard. I think people will have seen Malmo last night and seen that they ended up winning really comfortably on aggregate with 10 men. So that's what shows the standard of the league. And I've been really impressed with this. I've been surprised at how good the level is.
What's it like playing against someone like Sebastian Larsson? He's still going strong playing at the Euros, but think back to them days in the Premier League when he was with the likes of Sunderland and Birmingham, when he used to score some wonderful goals, both from open play and set pieces. Is he still able to produce that magic week in, week out?
You didn't see his goal on the weekend, no?
I didn't know. I feel bad now.
Oh,
It obviously sounds like it was a good one.
a free kick again. It's a set piece delivery. It's the best I've ever seen. I think someone was saying he's still like third for the most set piece goals in Premier League history, and I played it in like 5 or 6 years there. So that just quality. And then just like in training, and he sets the standard. He's obviously been there and done it. So he knows the standards that are required, and he leads by example. And then just technically, he's class. So it's just great to be training and seeing that player every day. You know.
One thing I've certainly learned already from even this early stage, didn't you? I'm definitely going to be watching the highlights of all the Swedish goals now every weekend after. Just describe Sebastian's goal there from the weekend. That's kind of another thing as well, because he would have been coming into your team, I suppose, obviously would have gone away for a few weeks with the Euros. And like in general, just even kind of thinking that you obviously coming into this season off the back of being pretty much in the close season or just getting back into pre-season with Lincoln after finishing up with Bolton last year. And you're coming into a league that was 10 or 11 games into a new season, that they would have been well up in fitness levels. Do you find that was even kind of something that you kind of had to get going very, very quickly? Like,
yeah, I think from the outside looking in, people really expected me to take a bit of time to get going. But in fairness, like, I always work hard in the off season and put a lot of effort into to go back in good shape. And any club I've been at, I've come back up in the player. So I put in a lot of work in the off season. Obviously, it's different with match fitness, but I gave myself the best chance of coming back in good shape. I'm ready to get going, and I think it's sort of testament to that I was only here, I think, 2 weeks, and I was playing 85 minutes, which not a lot of people would be able to do after. I think my last game was like May, so putting the hard work in the off season. But yeah, I think even I've been a little bit surprised at how quickly I've been able to get up to speed.
Yeah, so we'll kind of move back in time a little bit. We'll come back to kind of maybe, the present day and maybe more hopes and aspirations for the future. We'll go right all the way back to where it was first started. Obviously, I know you were with Malahide right up until 2014, and then you signed with West Brom and spent a couple of years there, even still as a teenager. But before all that, where did the first kind of interest for football kind of ignite for yourself, and where would have been the early days playing before leading up to even going to Malahide?
My brother used to play for River Valley, and then he signed for Shelbourne when I was like 3 or 4. So I was always going up watching him play. And from like 3 or 4, I really wanted to play, but I was too young. So I actually ended up getting started at Shelbourne a year before I was meant to start. So I always ended up playing a year up. But now I started at Shelbourne and then went to River Valley, and then Malahide, and then Malahide to West Brom.
Would you be a Shelbourne fan so growing up?
I was between. It's a bit controversial, but I played for Chelsea, but I used to always go watch balls.
It is very controversial, right? Given the close proximity of the two clubs as well, there on the north side. So was it kind of, we'll touch on your time at Waterford, but was it a bit strange then maybe when you're with Waterford playing against like kind of your boyhood team that you supported?
Not really. Like, to be honest, when I was younger, we went to a lot of balls games because we used to go to the Alsa gym, and they used to train up there. So we got friendly with some of the players. So we used to always go up. But since we stopped going when I was like 10 or 11, so I sort of fell out of watching Irish football. So when I came back home, there wasn't really that sort of tie to balls anymore, you know.
Yeah, it's from even your brief time when you're saying when you were younger, going watching balls, kind of who would have been the players that would have stood out to you, would have been kind of your idols, and that you kind of would have been saying to yourself, when I'm older, I want to be like him.
We used to love Kevin Hunt, and then obviously that balls team was class. They had like Stephen Moore and Nolan Heary and Glenn Crowe and that sort of stuff. They were competing and winning leagues, but Kevin Hunt was always my favourite. I don't know why, for some reason. I just love watching him.
Yeah, some good times for Bulls, and the way they're going at the moment, they look like they could be replicating some similar formaries with their fantastic run in Europe this season. Have you actually, just even on that before we might even touch on other things, have you got to kind of see much or follow much of So it's not just both, but in general, the Irish team's performances in Europe.
I always follow the League of Ireland because Waterford was the reason where I am where I am. They gave me the chance to sort of that my career. So I always watch over the results, and then in Europe, as you said, I love seeing the Irish teams do well, and they're all doing class at the moment. Dundalk getting a great result, FTS Rovers winning their game, and Bowes obviously in a great position as well. So it's good to see. Good to see the Irish teams doing well, because I think if they do well, then obviously the money will get back into the league and it'll help it improve, which is what we all want.
Yeah, and bring up the coefficient of the league as well, and hopefully make this kind of a regular team where we have a couple of teams from the league still playing European football in the month of August, and not just make it an occasional thing every so often. So we mentioned obviously would have played with Malahide up until 2014, then went to West Brom for 3 years from 2014 to 2017. Played a couple of times in the under-23 league there as well in the Premier League too. Overall, how would you look back on your 3 years at the Midlands club?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, I was learning from good coaches and playing with good players. It was difficult because I didn't play as much as I would have liked it, and it wasn't really that pathway through to the first team at that time. When I first signed, it was Alan Irvine was the manager, and he just come. I think he was Everton's head of the academy. So him coming into West Brom was one of the reasons that I sort of wanted to go there, because you could come from that academy setup. There was hopefully going to be that platform to come through. But then after like 3 or 4 months, he was gone, and then Tony Pulis came in, and obviously his remit is keeping the club in the Premier League, so he's less inclined to give players the chance. He wants players that are ready and tried and tested. So for me, there wasn't that pathway through to the first team, which is obviously disappointing. But even if there is that pathway, it's still tough because Premier League club at that time. So for anyone, it's hard to break through. But now I learned off some good people there. Overall, I look back and it was a good experience to help me into the player that I am today.
Would you have played in any similar age group teams, or anyway along cross paths with Darragh O'Shea? I know obviously he's still there to this day, and he's a similar age profile to yourself.
Yeah, Darragh came over the year after me. We had a good Irish group there. There was me, Daryl O'Shea, Robbie McCourt was playing with Sligo, Evan Pierce. So there was a good few Irish. Kevin Healy was over there as well. But me and Darragh, we've always been close since we played together. We're still really close now, so it's great to see him doing well. And it's great watching him. But yeah, as I said, it's supposed to break through, and it's sort of testament to him that he's managed to do that. It's great for him.
Yeah, and even already he started the season on a flyer thing, scoring at the weekend and making the championship team this season. He's really going from strength to strength. Even just briefly more in your time at West Brom there, would you cross paths much with first team players? Obviously, I'm thinking of the Irish connections, and James McLean would have been at the West Brom that time as well.
I didn't have any dealings with James McLean now. I was sort of gone when he started to come in. For me, it was more like people that sort of looked after me were like Darren Fletcher and Johnny. They sort of chatted to me and sort of made sure that I was all right. And when I did train with the first team, they helped me through it. I think McLean sort of just as I was leaving, and I don't think there was any other Irish people there when I was there. There was obviously half an hour Jacko the kid man. I think everyone knows Jacko, but he used to look after me as well. But now I didn't really have many dealings with James McLean.
Yeah, so 3 years with West Brom, then you went up north, across the border into Scotland, and signed for Inverness, County Thistle in the summer of 2017. I suppose you spent, I think, was it just over a year there? I think you said at the time when you went on to sign for Waterford after that kind of it was injury disrupted, and I think you were only limited, I think, to 5 appearances. You had a brief loan spell as well with Elgin City. Is that kind of how you do look back at that, it's a case of what could have been at Inverness, only for just the injury to kind of really disrupt your time there?
Yeah, it was when I first went. Got injured the day after I signed, which was never good. So I was out for like 4 or 5 months, and then I was coming back, and there was false promises, which one never sort of carried through. So it ended up getting to the point where I just wasn't getting a look in at all. So I had to go, and I still had a year left on my contract. I said to cancel it because I needed to play football, and it's tough because you're up there in the Highlands and there's nothing else around. Like, it's hard for your family to get over. And to be fair, like, I had some good mates in the club that looked after me, and we all looked after each other. But it's still tough. Like, you're up there in the winters, it's cold, and when you're injured, it's hard. So we needed to get out of there just to play football, and that's what happened when I went to Waterford. But yeah, it was disappointing because I think if that injury didn't happen, then maybe it could have been different.
Yeah, I do hear, and I know of myself from even being in Edinburgh, Scotland is cold, but I think Inverness and Ross County and them places in the Highlands, they just take it even to a new level. And you just even kind of touched on it there, like, you never just seem to kind of just settle in kind of personally, because with isolation, like you said, it was just so remote, it was difficult kind of for family and friends to kind of get over. Do you think that all played a part in you just kind of deciding to leave by mutual consent, literally only 12 or 13 months after joining the club?
Yeah, the main thing was just that I wasn't playing games. To be fair, like, if I was playing, it would have been grand, because when you're playing football, everything's all right. You don't have time then to think about the other things. Like, if you're playing games, you don't think about, oh, I'm up in the Inverness in the middle of nowhere. If you're playing games, everything's grand. You can play football anywhere and you'll be happy. But yeah, it was just because I wasn't playing games, basically.
Yeah, so you think then the move to Waterford in the winter of 2018 was just perfect? Like, you were still only 21, would have been 20 at the time even. Like, as you got the opportunity to play more football, and as you know as well, with being in Ireland, we're a small country, nowhere is ever too far away, so there would have been plenty of opportunities to meet friends, meet families, all that way from when you weren't playing and training matches, or training and playing matches.
Yeah, for me, Waterford was just perfect at the right time. I think Adam Reynolds was on to me like a week after coming home, and straight away he was the first person on to me. After that there was obviously a few other clubs interested, but he was straight away the first person on to me, and he told me that I'd enjoy my football and he'd give me games and he'd make sure I started loving it again. And to be fair, like, sometimes managers don't stick to their word, but he stuck to his word. That season was tough for the club, but for me individually, it was just one of the most enjoyable seasons I've had. Just playing week in, week out. Like, I knew that the manager believed in me, and we had a good team. I know that stuff off the field sort of made it difficult, but the group of lads we had was just unreal. Like, everyone got on so well, and we just loved me fine down there. I owe everything to Alan Reynolds and Waterford, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a kind of a good point there about mentioning it was kind of a funny season, because it was the 2019 season. Obviously, from a personal point of view, you got that game time again, 29 appearances in all competitions, 6 goals. It led you getting the call up to the Ireland Under-21 to Stephen Kenny, scoring in the Toulon tournament, and then ending the season with them goals against Armenia and Sweden. We'll come to maybe obviously some of the issues off the field with Waterford from that season, but that obviously really kind of, it does seem like that was kind of the move that really got your confidence back, like, from the outside looking in.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I had stayed at Inverness, I wouldn't have been anywhere near the 21s. Because obviously I think Alan and Stephen Kenny as well at the time had a really good relationship as well. So as soon as I came home, I think Stephen was straight on to Alan, asking him to keep him updated on how I was doing. And to be fair, I hit the ground running. I went to the training camp, the home-based training camp at Ireland in the 21s, and did well at that. And then sort of never looked back from there. Had one sort of nick where I got injured in Toulon and I was out for 7 or 8 weeks. But prior to that, the season was, for me individually, was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and one of the things as well, just looking back on your quotes when you signed for Waterford, because it seemed it was all going to happen that time in the off season. The traction of European football was so big. That obviously must have been heartbreaking and frustrating. Obviously, nothing the club could do about it was taken out of their control, out of their hands. But to have that taken away from you and so close must have been just, from the player's point of view, obviously must have been just soul destroying.
Yeah, for me it was obviously disappointing, but it was worse for the players that worked so hard the season before. to get to go there. And it was heartbreaking for them because they worked hard and toiled the whole season before to have it snatched away for something that they had no control over and something that they didn't do. They did their job. They got fourth place and they earned their way into Europe, and then something out of their control takes it away. And I think for a few weeks after that, you saw that the results sort of went bad. Before that, we were on a great one. I think we were third or fourth or fifth maybe in the table, and we were close to Europe. And then after that, things started to go away for a few weeks, and that's what killed our season.
Yeah, I suppose all in all, it's probably still ended up being too bad for season Waterford, finishing 6th and 43 points, never threatened relegation, but ultimately never looked like reaching the heights of the previous season and getting back into Europe. So then the following January, you end up signing for Lincoln about 2 or 3 months after the season would have ended at Waterford. So when did kind of speculation or interest first arouse there, or was there kind of, in general, maybe when did the talk start to rise of a possibility to move across the water again?
There was talk of a move from like Toulon maybe. There was talk of interest from different clubs, but there was nothing. There was obviously concrete offers from Ireland, and then right before the Sweden and Armenia trip, Lincoln got in contact with sort of concrete offer, and there was other clubs that were interested as well. But it's about Jez George at Lincoln, and from what he was telling me, it seemed like the perfect fit. He told me he was going to play, and that there was the progress and either end up with a championship with Lincoln, or if the right offer came in and I was doing well, they wouldn't stand in my way. So Lincoln seemed like the perfect fit from then. But yeah, the concrete interest was before that Armenia.
Yeah, so you officially signed for Lincoln then on the 1st of January 2020. You make 5 appearances, probably just adapting, finding your feet, being back outside of Ireland again, new country, new league, bang, March. Then the COVID comes in football and the season is cut short.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. It was just the time, wasn't it? I think a lot of people's seasons were disrupted, and yeah, just a mad time. You look back at it now and it doesn't seem real. That was over a year ago. But yeah, that was a killer because, as you said, I was getting comfortable finding my feet, and I felt like I was part of the group at that time, and properly settling in and then trying and showing what I could do, and then the season.
But then last season with Lincoln, well, I suppose first half season ends up being Lincoln. I think was it 6 appearances, got a couple of goals in the EFL trophy, and then the move came about to Bolton to join them on loan for the rest of the season in January, and that obviously ends up in delight because they end up clinching promotion from League Two.
Yeah, obviously, Lincoln I was doing well when I was getting a chance. I was doing well, and played in the EFL trophy twice and got played around twice, scoring in both games, but it wasn't the opportunity to play in what I wanted to play was the league games and the team playing, and the manager just didn't fancy me. So then the Bolton move sort of came about quite quick. We played Accrington in the EFL trophy and had a really good game, and then there was talk of interest in Bolton on loan, but then after that game we played on the Tuesday night, and the Wednesday morning there was the call to say that they really wanted me, so we drove down there on the Thursday, I think it was, and everything was done. And yeah, it was sort of a no-brainer to go there because everyone knows how big Bolton is. They shouldn't be in League Two. You just look at their stadium and their history. They should be in the Championship minimum. So it's a good opportunity to go and play for such a big club.
Yeah, obviously you kind of touched on it pretty much right in saying there that they shouldn't be in League Two. They've had a lot of financial trouble. Very similar to Bury. They actually could have even ended up being wound up 2 years ago. But when you're going there on loan, like you're not officially, well, it's not that you're not officially, but you're only going in there halfway kind of through the season. Is there still the kind of same sense of relief and kind of satisfaction and joy at achieving the goal at the end of the season as it would be for the players that would have started the season?
Yeah, it was because when I went in, I think we were 19th in the table, So there was no chance of promotion at that time.
Turned our season around.
No, I didn't, not at all. To be fair, I didn't have the impact I sort of wanted to have. But all the lads that sort of came in January, we sort of helped them get there, because when you look at it, like, I don't think a team could go from 19 to promotion in the space of, I think at a point in February we were still 19. So in the space of 3 or 4 months to go from there to promotion was just something special, and it's something that I honestly don't think will ever be done again. And it was just sort of a perfect storm of the players loving what they did, and just getting that momentum, and just letting the momentum carry us.
And say, like, at the end of the season, when you finally clinch promotion, the final day, what was it kind of like? Obviously, would have been empty stadiums as opposed to the great scenes it would have been. I think England had kind of lifted a good few restrictions at that stage, post ourselves. So were you kind of able to get out and kind of at least enjoy it and kind of soak up the celebrations in some way?
Yeah, it was when we actually won promotion, there was no fans in stadiums, which was obviously a bit disappointing. But we got back to Bolton at like 12:30 at night, and they have the hotel at the stadium, so we were all staying there. We got there, and there was about 3,000 or 4,000 Bolton fans in the car park with their flares and singing songs. So we couldn't get off the bus for about an hour, and we had to get like a secret police escort into the stadium. But yeah, it was great because we ended up getting to celebrate with the fans. And obviously it was tough for them because they weren't able to be a part of the promotion. So it was nice to sort of be able to share that night with them. But it's sort of that when we arrived back, that sort of showed the size of the club, that there's that many supporters that have a vested interest in the club and that are passionate about the club, that they were willing to stay up to say like 1 o'clock in the morning to wait for the team in the rain to just celebrate. It was just unreal.
It was, I'd say, it was more cases of pneumonia as opposed to COVID that then would have been concerned. It was out waiting.
Yeah.
And touching on there, like, obviously we know last season, like I said, you celebrated winning promotion in front of an empty stadium. Football last season had to be played behind closed doors. But when we look back at the Euros and summer just gone by, and even the early few games we've seen this season and seeing crowds back in full stadiums, you think back to yourself last year, like, God, how did we watch this type of football, this soulless football with no crowds and everything else like that? And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, even just as a fan, I don't think I could do that again. As someone playing for yourself, did you find it equally just as much bad?
Yeah, it's a cliche, like, but football is definitely for the fans. I think the pandemic has sort of showed that, because if you try to go back and look at a game now with any crowd, I don't think people would be able to do it. It just kills the game. Like, you look at, I know you're talking about the Rangers and Malamo game, all the Rangers fans there, the atmosphere was just unbelievable. Football with fans is just so much better. And as you said, it's, for me as a player, I don't know if I could go back to playing without crowds, because the fans just give you that extra lift. And there's nothing better than, say, having a good game and you just sort of feel that energy from the fans. So yeah, it would definitely be cool to go back to behind closed doors.
And what is the situation behind or with games in Sweden at the moment with fans? Obviously, as you mentioned, it seems to be more or less back to full stadia in the UK. Here in Ireland, we've still got a long way to go, but I suppose, look, it's better than what it was at the start of the season. What's it like in Sweden? Are we looking at full stadiums, or still kind of social distancing carried out in stadiums?
No, it's about 25-30%. So we can get at the moment, we're getting about 12-13,000 supporters in at the games, which is still good. Like, but the supporters over here are crazy. Like, the noise they make. On my debut, there was 12,000 supporters there, but then I was saying, like, it felt like 30,000 because they sing from minute 1 to minute 90. It's crazy. Like, I've never experienced anything like it. And so I'm looking forward to when we can have full capacity. That's like.
So I'm just going by quick maths here. You're getting about 12,000 fans in at 25% capacity. You're looking at what, roughly speaking, normally a 48-seat or 1,000 stadium, which is very, very impressive. Would that normally be the kind of size of the stadiums what you've seen in Sweden so far?
Our stadium would be the biggest, because obviously it's the national team stadium as well. But we played Djurgården the other day, and I think that's about 25-30,000 almost over 20,000. So the standard of the stadium was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's a long way, unfortunately, ahead of what we have here, but hopefully, fingers
Yeah.
crossed, you never know. But just like when you hear stuff like that, like it's it just shows you how much the passion is for the game in Sweden. Just from an international kind of background, obviously, you're born to a Libyan father and Irish mother. Obviously, you've played all the way up from Ireland, from under 15s right up to under 21s. You're now over age for that category, so the next step is hopefully to get a phone call from Stephen Kenny. Was there ever any doubt about not declaring for Ireland? Did the thoughts of declaring for Libya ever enter your mind?
No, zero there.
All Ireland all the way. You mentioned really the under 21 campaign. Obviously, a mixed campaign in the end. A lot of positives taken away from that recent qualifying campaign. Just so disappointing, losing the last couple of matches in crunch games against Italy and Iceland. Probably the COVID situation with the senior team had a knock-on effect. A lot of our under 21 players got taken away. Stephen as well was gone. Obviously, we probably knew that was going to happen anyway at some stage during the campaign. But really positive campaign, as I mentioned for yourself, getting in kind of a couple of goals against Armenia and Sweden to add to that goal you got against China in the Toulon tournament.
Yeah, it was, as I said, like with the Waterford season, the season with the 21s, the campaign was just unbelievable. The group we had was just class. Like everyone got on so well. There was normally when you go away with international teams, there's different sort of groups and there's different gigs, but everyone was like a big family. Everyone was loved going and loved playing for our country, and I looked forward to the trip so much. But yeah, it was disappointing at the end. I think if we could have played after that Sweden camp closer, maybe if we had more games after that, we had the momentum. So I think we would have went on and qualified after that. But then it was a year between the camps, and a lot of our important players, as you said, went up with the senior team. Obviously, Stephen went up with the senior team. Keith Andrews went up with the senior team. So it sort of took a lot of our momentum away. But overall, I think you have to look back at the campaign, and it was very positive, and I think we as players showed that there is talent in Irish football. We beat Sweden pretty comfortably and competed with Italy, so I think that we have good players.
Did it hurt a little bit, slightly more for maybe someone like yourself, given you knew this was your last campaign, this age group, that was your last chance to make a major tournament at underage level for Ireland?
Yeah, for the Luxembourg game, my last game was emotional. It's been a journey from under 15s, obviously all the way up to 21. So there was obviously people like Conor Masterson that had gone from under 15s all the way through, and we've been in pretty much every camp from under 15s to under 20s. So it was emotional, but then you got to look at the next step, which is hopefully the senior team. If that happens, that would be brilliant. But yeah, now 21s is done, so now you just got to look forward.
Yeah, you're saying they're like the likes of Conor Masson and a few other players that you would have played with all the way along, and you would have got such a fond bond and attachment there. And you said at the start that like it was like a family coming together when you used to meet up with under 21s. You often hear some of the great stories from days gone by, even more recent past, just before COVID. Like for the senior team, when it came to international break, they just couldn't wait to get over, even on the Sunday night beforehand, meet up maybe for a few quiet drinks, or we've heard a few stories about a couple of long drinks. Would it even be like that on the 21 level, that you actually would be just as soon as you finish playing your club game, get over to Dublin and would even meet up just for a bit of some sort of a bonding session as such before you went starting training?
It depends, like, because sometimes you didn't have the chance to get home before. Well, obviously for me, I was playing in Ireland, so I was home all the time. But a lot of the time it was play, and we'd meet up straight away in the camp. Or people would play and they wouldn't be able to fly for the next day. So there wasn't a lot of being able to meet up before. But like during the camp, some days we'd have free, so we'd go out and have a bit of food or go into town or something, or just do it together. Which helped as well to create that bond. And the Toulon tournament as well helped us create that bond, because we were together for 3 or 4 weeks. So at the end of it, everyone was just like, as I said, like a big family.
Yeah, and tension now in terms of Ireland reckoning turns to the senior team, and hopefully at some stage getting a phone call from Stephen Kenny. And most kind of people's perception when it comes to looking at players, the senior team, we look at that, how are players performing in England or Scotland, and that's where they have to be. But does someone like Josh Cullen, who's proven he took a risky move, but it's really paid off him by going to Belgium last year, even this early stage of the season, he's flying it again with Anderlecht, and he's got recognition getting his senior call up last year. Does seeing something like that give you real belief that if you perform well in Sweden, that you will get that phone call?
Yeah, I think as well. Obviously, Josh has gone out there and he's done brilliant, and he's been in the camp. But for me, obviously, he even knows me from the under-21s, and he picked me in all his squads, and I think every game that I was fit, I started. So he must like something about me. So if I know if I'm playing well and I'm playing week in, week out, then hopefully the chance for the call up will come. But I try not to look at things that are out of my control. So the only thing I can control is my performances here. And if the call up comes, it comes. I'd love for it to happen, but we'll see what happens. But for me, playing in Europe has always been something that I've been open to. So when this opportunity came, it's sort of a no-brainer. I think the world sort of suits me more than the lower levels of English football, and I think there's other Irish players that should probably be open to doing it as well.
Would you find that maybe the standard that this is the top league in Sweden, as you touched on with some of the facilities and stadiums, and we've even touched on the start of this interview, the results that Swedish sides can get in Europe. Would you say it is of a better standard than League One, League Two? And would you say there's a better kind of style of play? Because you often hear maybe a lot of League One, League Two can be direct, route one kind of football, where there might be more emphasis in this league to be a bit more technical, get the ball down your feet and spray it around.
Yeah, I think the standard in League One and League Two is good. Like, you get good players there, but I think over here it's more technical and tactical. English football is very, especially in the lower leagues, more between it's very fast paced, and a lot of games are a fight. Like, I've been lucky at Lincoln and Bolton. We tried to play good football, but it's tough when you're playing on crap pitches and you're playing teams that are just getting the ball and making it a fight. It's tough. Whereas I think every game that I've played here, teams are trying to play out from the back, and there's more emphasis on the tactical side of the game, and everyone's technically really good. So I think that's suiting me.
Just one last question before we finish up, because you've been very good with your time today. Look, it's early mid-August. There's a long way now to go to next December when the Swedish League finishes up. Ireland by that stage, I think, would have played at least I think they've six more qualifiers.
6 games, I think so.
6 games. So 3 international windows. Like I said, you're early days still in the Swedish League. You're in the thick of a title race. What is kind of the aims and goals that you'll be looking back come the end of your season when it all wraps up just a few weeks before Christmas?
Yeah, just play as many games as I can. I think if I look back from my age and for how good I think I am, I don't think I've played enough games as I should. So get as many games as I can, get as many goals and assists as I can, and then hopefully a call up will come, but we'll see with that. But yeah, just help the team here. As I said, everyone's been brilliant with me so far. I've loved it so far, and the supporters have been so welcoming. So I want to do well for them. The manager, the staff, the players have been so welcoming. So I want to do well for them as well. So we'll see what happens. I think European football here is definitely an achievable goal, and then after that we'll see what happens. But as you said, we're sort of in the thick of it at the moment. So if we can keep the momentum going, we're 5 unbeaten now. If we can keep that going, you never know what will happen.
Yeah, well, you certainly sound like you're having a very good time over there already, and
Yeah.
the way you're talking up as well, I certainly want to add that now to my bucket list and get over to a game in the Swedish League, and who knows, maybe one of the Irish teams get drawn against them next year in Europe.
You never know.
Exactly, yeah. Who knows what could happen? But Zach, thanks very much for your time today, and best of luck with I suppose first and foremost the game this weekend, and best of luck with the rest of the season, and hopefully that international call-up will come between now and November.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.